Welcome back to Capital Tide, a statewide look at politics. I'm Tim Boyd. The midterm elections are less than 3 weeks away. The political parties are making their final pushes to voters, trying to get them out to the polls. Senior political reporter Rita Beniti spoke with Reince Priebus this morning, chairman of the Republican National Committee on the GOP's campaign strategy nationwide.
Well, Mr. Priebus, thanks so much for joining us here tonight on Capital Tonight.
Happy to be here.
Well, Election Day is finally just around the corner. How's the RNC feeling about the Republican candidates going into these last few weeks? And are you predicting that the Republicans will gain control of the U.S. Senate?
Yeah, we feel really good about our candidates. I mean, I think we've got great recruits all over the country, including Tom Tillis in North Carolina. And if you look at the environment, obviously the Democrats haven't done well and led by a president that is highly unpopular. And people like Kay Hagan in North Carolina that have followed Barack Obama almost 100% of the time. I don't think that works for voters in North Carolina or across the country. And certainly I think we're providing a better alternative. And so if you multiply North Carolina across the country, I think things look really good for us, and we're cautiously optimistic, you could say.
Well, here in North Carolina, obviously, we have this extremely tight U.S. Senate seat. We've seen a ton of outside North Carolina groups, including yours, stepping in to help out. But this is still a statistical dead heat. Are you surprised to see that at this point?
Well, I think it doesn't bode well for Kay Hagan. I mean, she's been in office for now almost 6 years. And she's sitting around 41, 42% of the vote. And you're right, it's really close. But usually for an incumbent, if you can't get yourself at 48, 49 at least, because some people would say even that's a problem, but if you can't even get close to that, you have some major problems. And now I think the problem for Kay Hagan now is that now during the last 3 weeks, she has to fight off a very, very serious charge that she voted for a bill that ended up sending almost $400,000 to her husband. I don't know about you, but if I voted for a bill and my wife ended up getting a check because of it for 400 grand, that's almost a disqualifier. So she's got a big problem.
Heading into this election season, a lot of people saw Kay Hagan as a very vulnerable Democrat. However, Speaker Tillis really hasn't been able to break away. Do you think that this might just be the nature of North Carolina these days, that we're really a purple state?
Well, I mean, it's a close state. I mean, look at what happened in 2012. I mean, North Carolina is becoming ground zero in America. But I think you're probably underplaying or underestimating the vulnerability of an incumbent that isn't performing well when you have a challenger. So usually, I'm not quarreling with you that it's a close race. All I'm trying to point out is that I think an incumbent sitting in the low 40s is very vulnerable. And I would say, yes, it also is close because North Carolina, by its nature, has been a very close state as of late, and I think it's going to remain that way.
Okay, so we are in these final weeks right now. What kind of efforts are we going to see going forward in these final weeks to make sure that you get out the voters that you want to see at the polls?
Well, obviously, we're following early vote and absentee vote in North Carolina very closely and getting updates out of the Secretary of State's office as much as we can, all the municipalities. This isn't sort of a vague out in the clouds effort of watching polling that comes in and seeing what happens. It's a very detailed operation, micro-targeting voters, looking at different vote universes that we have to measure every day how things are going. So, the Republican National Committee has put together one of the biggest ground operations that we've ever done in a midterm in North Carolina. We've invested multiple millions of dollars in trying to turn out the vote. But ultimately, it's going to be a close race, and ultimately, all these other groups that are looking and worried about North Carolina, it's up to people in North Carolina, and we're just hoping that people there see that what Kay Hagan's done isn't good for North Carolina. It's not good for the country. It's not good for people in Wisconsin either, the way that Kay Hagan votes, and so that's why so many people around the country care about the choice that people in North Carolina make in the Senate, because it affects everybody. And look, the president's got this country moving in the wrong direction. Kay Hagan's followed him off the plank, and now we found out that she's making her family rich too with $400,000 from things that she's been doing as a senator. It's not good for anybody.
Well, so you're going to be here in North Carolina this weekend with Speaker Tillis. What message are you going to be sending out to the voters here?
Well, first of all, we're going to talk about the fact that, number one, Kay Hagan is moving this country in the wrong direction. She's following the president, in the wrong places and voting in the wrong way, making her family rich off of votes she's taken, but also that Tom Tillis offers a better future, a balanced budget. The idea that every parent ought to send their child to the school of their choice, that in fact we do have things we need to do in energy independence in this country, which will make us more independent around the world, and the fact that we have to be stronger and tougher on foreign threats like ISIS and obviously getting things under control domestically like the Secret Service and the CDC and so many other things that just aren't in the right place right now, that I think a guy like Tom Tillis can bring some real experience to Washington and start rolling his sleeves up and getting things done. That's what we need in Washington. I think Tom Tillis does that.
Okay, RNC Chairman Reince Priebus, thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you here in North Carolina this weekend.